Have you ever thought about what your mindset should be in fighting? Should I be full of rage? Should I be relaxed? I always thought that Alexander Emelianenko versus James Thompson perfectly captures both of these mindsets. But I don't think either of those mindsets are actually the best option. So today I will be covering what I think the optimal mental state is in detail. There are many different opinions about how a fighter should compose themselves and their thoughts, but which one should you be? We've all heard of the monk archetype, the guy who stays calm throughout any encounter. Then there's the angry guy who intimidates everyone and uses rage to beat his opponents.
Come here and tell me that if I fuck you in your ass, punk white boy.
But are either of these mindsets truly effective, or even realistic for most people? This question is what I intend to unpack in this segment. And then I will give you what I believe to be the best methodology, and then give you detailed steps on how to actually achieve that. This is not to say that my way is the only way. Different personalities and different styles of fighting will lend themselves better to different specific ways of thinking. With that all being said, let's begin by discussing anger and fear. Now, anger and fear are actually very similar emotions when you analyze the effects they have on the body. The main difference being whether you are trying to avoid the danger or cause the danger. Both will trigger the fight or flight response in the body. However, I will be mainly discussing anger here, as I think it is an emotion that many people actually think is useful in fighting.
No.
Fear is obviously very common in fighting as well, but most people already understand that, and they understand exactly how fear can mess you up if you're trying to fight someone, so I don't feel the need to explain that in much detail here. Anger can be useful when utilized properly, and many fighters do utilize it properly. It can provide you with the extra burst of energy you needed to escape a submission, or to keep your neck tight and absorb a shot to the head.
Dun, 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 dun.
Anger and fear both provide the body with adrenaline, which increases your heart rate, your blood pressure, and it does this by taking blood away from the organs and sending it into the muscles, thus giving you more endurance, more power. It also speeds up your nervous system, which helps with things like reflexes and delivering your punch with a good kinetic chain. But in my opinion, these effects from anger are not really bringing much to the table, especially since fear can produce similar effects without turning you into an insect. In fact, to me the most profound effect of anger is that it overrides all the other emotions you were feeling in the fight. When you are so full of rage and hatred for your opponent, you no longer feel afraid, you no longer feel tired, you no longer feel unmotivated. You don't ask yourself, what am I doing here? Because you know what you're doing here. You must destroy that person standing across from you. So, for all intents and purposes, anger turns you into a more powerful version of yourself, right? Not really. I think generally anger is a disadvantage, and anyone who wins using anger probably would have won without anger. The anger is just on top of their skill that they already have. So why do I believe that anger is a disadvantage then? Well, there's one main caveat that affects all aspects of fighting, and that is control. As I already said, anger overrides all of your other emotions and takes control of your body. But let me ask you, have you ever made a good decision while angry?
You dirty dragon-eating little fucking spastic. Right, okay, the dragon comment was probably a little bit fucking over the top.
A quote from Donald Robinson goes as follows: "Anger makes you do stupid things faster and with more energy." And there is a scientific explanation for why this happens. When the body is suddenly dumped with a large amount of adrenaline, whether it comes from anger, fear, or even an EpiPen, your body will divert all resources away from the organs to the muscles. That may sound useful until you consider that the brain is also one of your organs. So simply put, anger makes you a bit of an idiot. The parts of your brain responsible for decision-making revert to your monkey brain state, and your instincts take over. Now, if you're a trained fighter, acting on instinct may not sound too bad. However, anger manipulates those instincts and removes the whole self-preservation component. And this can lead to some particularly dangerous effects.
Well, here it is right here. Straight knee right to the jaw by Marlon.
When you're angry, you will not defend yourself as well. You will take risks far more often, even up to 50% more often, according to this source here. You will not have the foresight to realize that charging in and swinging wildly will gas you out way faster without actually being any more effective. So basically, anger is a bit of a glass cannon. It can give you some much needed explosiveness in certain situations, and I think it should be used for such cases. But if anger is your default state of mind when fighting, you're going to get very sloppy, and then you're going to get very... Knock the fuck out, man!
Give me my goddamn money.
So basically, my opinion is, unless you're a really, really big guy who can take a lot of heat and you have a very aggressive style of fighting, I don't think you should rely on anger. But fighting is tense, and getting hit, rightly so, can make people very angry. So how can we mitigate this anger? Well, according to Psychology Today, anger is created by a combination of personality traits that make you think you're the best, and that you deserve to be the best. So when you get hit in the face and realize that you are in fact not the best, it upsets you. Therefore, the best way to not allow yourself to be overcome with rage during a fight is to be humble. Learn humility. Accept that there are people better than you, and instead of hating them, try to learn from them. Not only will this prevent anger from jealousy, but it will also allow you to become better at what you want to be good at faster. So, to summarize, anger is sometimes useful for escapes and times where you need lots of muscle power, but it debilitates your strategy and it ruins your game. To avoid anger, manage your ego.
On this, I am going to truly love putting a bad beating on this little glass jaw rat.
Or someone else will. Now let's cover calm. Remaining calm is the antithesis of anger, so it would make sense that all the shortcomings of anger are actually remedied by tranquility. Remaining calm prevents adrenaline surges and therefore prevents you from doing all those stupid things that anger causes you to do. But it also means that your reaction speed is reduced compared to someone who is angry or scared. It means you have less muscle power than someone who is angry or scared. By being calm instead of tense, you're exchanging power and speed for the ability to think clearly. Now, in the right hands, this can be formidable. It can boost your strategic game massively. It can allow you to adapt to weird opponents on the fly without having to go back to the heavy bag and reprogram in new combinations, because you have a clear mind to look at what they're doing objectively and decide what the best course of action is. But it's still important that your bodily mechanics are sufficiently drilled into your brain and that you can trust your training.
Don't think. Feel.
You don't want to be pondering the mechanics of a roundhouse kick mid-altercation. There is also something to be said about having improved technique when your body and mind are loose and relaxed. So is it better to be calm than angry? Well, maybe. But I still don't think this is the solution. Have you ever hesitated to throw an attack in sparring? Have you ever thought too much about what your opponent might do if you made the wrong call and suffered for it? I have. The accomplished MMA fighter and grappler Shinya Aoki wrote a book a few years ago. It talks about his life and how he began martial arts, but there's also a lot of really good knowledge in the book about fighting itself. One quote in particular, translated, goes as follows: "Even in extreme states of excitement, one can possess a timidity akin to standing on a balance beam. What would happen if you ran across a balance beam recklessly, letting your momentum take over? You'd immediately lose your footing and fall off. On the balance beam, how well you can remain calm and fearful of all risks will literally be the difference between life and death." End quote. I want you to bear in mind here that this is slightly paraphrased due to translation from the original Japanese. But essentially what he is saying here is that you don't want to be too highly strung that you panic and mess up due to fear, but you must also be fearful enough to respect the danger you are in and to not do anything impulsive or reckless. You must be tense, yet in control. So one end of that scale would be James Thompson trying really hard to be angry and intimidate Alexander Emelianenko, and then getting slumped like a sack of shit. The other end of that scale would be Shinya Aoki versus the guy that decided to say hello to Japan whilst he had one of the best grapplers in the world on his back like a backpack.
形は今さっきと違ってクラッチを取らないタイプの。
今ハロージャパンで取られましたね。
ずっと入りました。
ハロージャパンで
入りました。
ハロージャパンで取られました。
スリーパーだ。入っている。スリーパーだ。さあガードラー抜けられるか。ガードラー抜けられるか。ガードラー抜きたい。
入ってますね。
完全に青木の右が入った。
グッバイジャパンですね。グッバイジャパンになってしまいましたね。
青木の。
So Aoki reckons you want to be somewhere in the middle of that scale, in between anger, fear, and calm. My opinion is somewhat parallel to that of Aoki's, but it is slightly different. One day I was thinking about this mindset whilst I was sitting with my cat, Claude. Now Claude may not look dangerous, but he is a very effective hunter. And whilst I was sat there with him thinking about how to compose myself for fighting, a fly flew past both of us, and immediately it was like a switch flipped on in Claude's brain. He went from relaxed and almost sleeping to immediately toggling into hunter-killer mode. His eyes widened, his posture straightened, his neck cranked out, and he became still and quietly focused. He wasn't angry or full of rage, but he wasn't full of fear or anticipation either. He sat there with just focus, and without missing a beat, he did exactly as his instincts told him to do, and after waiting for the perfect moment, he pounced, and he caught the fly between his paws out of midair, and then ate the whole thing. I was quite impressed, since I rarely watch him actually hunt something, and as I watched him chewing on this fly, it hit me that Claude has naturally mastered the mental composure that I was trying to work out right next to him. He was tense enough to have energy and not make mistakes, but he didn't overthink the outcome or ruin the outcome by hesitating. Claude trusted his instincts and controlled his emotions, and it paid off. Obviously, a cat catching a fly is not the same as two humans fighting with lots on the line, but I think the analogy stands true. I think to be an effective fighter, or hunter for that matter, you need to be like a cat hunting its prey. And if you think this is a ridiculous analogy, well, fair enough. But there are many fighters that do already do this. One of them that comes to mind is that clip of Chael Sonnen having beef with Wanderlei Silva.
I can't let you get close. Can you hear my...
Chael's face and stance is basically what I'm trying to aim for here. So how can we actually do this then? Well, stay tuned. Hope I'm not doing that. The human body is a complex thing. It has many moving parts and features. One of these features is one that most people are probably familiar with, and that is that the body and the mind are intricately connected. This means if you manipulate one of these, the other follows suit. An example of this would be slowing your breathing causes your whole body to slow down. It makes your heartbeat slow, it lowers your blood pressure, but most importantly here, it makes your mind calm down. Here, the body is affecting the mind, and this is the one most people are familiar with. But the effect does in fact go both ways. What this means is that getting into that state of the hunting cat that I was talking about earlier doesn't have to be some complicated ritual. It's actually as simple as just pretending. Now look at this footage of Wanderlei Silva in a stare down against Mirko Cro Cop. What does his face tell you about his intentions? He looks like he's itching to kill someone. And Cro Cop looks much calmer, yet there's still something in his eyes that tells us that he is a threat. He's also ready to hurt someone. Human body and face language has lots of layers and nuance to it, but it's something most people will easily understand, because we're humans. If you understand the body language of a hunter, we can use the effect I discussed earlier to adopt this persona into our own psyches. If your mind can affect your body and your body can affect your mind, what happens when they both come together to create the same effect? You get someone who is totally invested into a mindset. So to adopt this hunting cat composure, all you have to do is mimic it. Start by widening your eyes, not too far, just enough that you seem focused on something. Secondly, relax your muscles whilst keeping them tense enough to be ready. Thirdly, slow your breathing and breathe deeply. Fourth, clear your mind of anger, fear, and of all outcomes. Victories, losses, doesn't matter. Just focus purely on what you are doing. Let your instincts take over. By actively aligning our physiology with the hunting cat and attempting to align your mind as well, your body will essentially fill in the gaps and put you fully into this way of being. You want these steps to become as natural as raising your guard or tucking your chin. For me, widening my eyes has been part of my MMA fighting stance for a long time now. It triggers this routine in my brain that puts me in the mindset for fighting. So basically, we are pretending to be a hunter until our body makes us as close to one as we can be. So as the saying goes, fake it till you make it. A side effect of looking like a focused tiger hunting its prey is that it also potentially will have a psychological impact on your opponent. That is essentially it. A bonus piece of advice which I read in an old Moy Baran treaty is that if you're up against someone who has a scary face, you should aim your vision at their navel. You should still be able to see everything that you need to see, their limbs moving in your peripheral vision, but it prevents you from having a subconscious reaction to the scariness in their eyes. I would now just like to add on to the end of this video by saying, I believe this is the best methodology for mental composure for mixed martial arts, not for all combat sports. For example, I think anger might be more useful in wrestling, where you're doing lots of high-strength activity, and you also have the ability to recover from your mistakes better in grappling than in striking. And as for boxing, for example, I think remaining very calm could be more beneficial there than it is in MMA. But I think the cat methodology is generally pretty good for all combat sports, and it's my favorite way to do things. So that's it. There you go. Now you know. Party people rappers out of control.